Long ago, there was a man who was deeply disturbed by his own shadow and ashamed of the footprints he left behind. To him, the shadow was proof of a weakness he could never hide. The footprints were evidence that wherever he went, he left behind signs of his imperfect existence. He decided that the only solution was to escape them. So he began to run. He believed that if he moved quickly enough, his shadow would fall behind and his footprints would disappear. But the faster he ran, the more footprints he created. And no matter how desperately he tried to outrun his shadow, it remained beside him. Thinking that he simply was not trying hard enough, he pushed himself to run faster. His breath became shallow. His chest tightened. His legs began to burn. Still, he refused to stop. He was convinced that one final burst of effort would free him from everything he disliked about himself. Eventually, his body could go no farther. He collapsed from exhaustion and died without ever escaping the things he had been running from. The tragedy of this story is that the solution had always been simple. Had he stopped running and rested quietly beneath the shade of a tree, his shadow would have disappeared. This ancient parable, associated with the Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi, tells of a man who destroyed himself, trying to escape something that could never be separated from him. And although the story may sound extreme, many of us are living a quieter version of it every day. There is a conflict taking place inside you. Perhaps it has been there for years. Perhaps it has been there for so long that you no longer recognize it as conflict. It simply feels like the normal way of being alive. Every morning, the struggle begins again. You reach for your phone and see that someone your age has achieved something you are still working toward. Before you have even left your bed, part of you is already asking why you are falling behind. You write an email, reread it several times, and change every sentence because you are afraid of sounding careless, difficult, or inadequate. You agree to another request even though your schedule is already full, because disappointing someone feels more dangerous than exhausting yourself. You finish a creative project but hesitate to share it, imagining every possible criticism before anyone has even seen it. You replay a conversation from yesterday, searching for the exact moment when you may have said too much or not enough. You check whether someone has replied. Then you check again. You tell yourself that these patterns are weaknesses. You call yourself undisciplined, too sensitive, too dependent on the approval of others, too hesitant, too anxious, too complicated. And then, just like the man running from his shadow, you begin to run. We have been taught that growth means correcting everything uncomfortable about ourselves. We are told that strong people do not hesitate. Successful people do not need reassurance. Confident people never compare themselves with others. Productive people never lose motivation. Emotionally mature people are never affected by what anyone thinks. So, we begin constructing an imaginary version of ourselves. A version who wakes up early every day, never procrastinates, answers every message calmly, maintains perfect boundaries, stays focused for hours, and remains completely unaffected by rejection. Then we measure our real life against this imagined person. Whenever we fall short, we push harder. We download another productivity system. We buy another book. We begin another morning routine. We create stricter rules for ourselves. We promise that from Monday onward, we will finally become the person we were supposed to be. But the person we are trying to defeat is still the person making the plans. The more aggressively we attack our patterns, the more attention and emotional energy we give them. The more urgently we try not to feel anxious, the more anxious we become about our anxiety. The more we try to appear confident, the more carefully we monitor every sign of insecurity. The more we force ourselves not to care what others think, the more secretly we search their faces, messages, and reactions for evidence of what they think. Perhaps the problem is not that you have failed to run fast enough. Perhaps it is time to understand why you began running in the first place. Let me ask you something. When did you first begin to believe that certain parts of you were unacceptable? Perhaps it happened when you shared something online and a careless comment stayed in your mind far longer than all the kind responses. Perhaps you worked in an environment where mistakes were remembered but effort was invisible. Perhaps you learned that being useful was the easiest way to receive affection. Perhaps people praised you for being independent, so you stopped asking for help even when you desperately needed it. Perhaps you grew up around adults whose moods were unpredictable, and you became skilled at noticing the smallest change in someone's voice. Perhaps you were compared with classmates, co-workers, siblings, or strangers on the internet until life began to feel like a race whose rules were constantly changing. Somewhere along the way, you created an internal list of everything that needed to be corrected. Your habit of over-preparing, your difficulty resting, your fear of asking questions, your tendency to apologize when you have done nothing wrong, your need to explain yourself, your discomfort with uncertainty, your inability to enjoy an achievement before searching for the next one. You looked at these parts of yourself and declared war. But here is what few people tell us about inner conflict. Whatever you constantly fight, you also constantly feed. This does not mean you are weak. It does not mean that you lack discipline. It does not mean that you are incapable of changing. It means that transformation may work differently from what you have been taught. Lao Tzu observed the movement of water. He watched it meet rocks, fallen branches, narrow passages, and steep drops. Water never demanded that the landscape become easier. It did not stop in front of a stone and insist that the stone should not be there. It did not attempt to defeat hardness by becoming harder. It adjusted its direction. It remained faithful to its nature. It continued moving, and over time, the softest substance shaped even the hardest surface. This is one of the central paradoxes of Taoist wisdom. What appears soft may contain extraordinary strength. What refuses direct conflict may still create profound change. What yields in one moment may endure far longer than what resists. Consider the pattern you have been trying to eliminate for years. Perhaps you constantly check your work because one small mistake feels as though it could erase every sign of competence. Perhaps you avoid difficult conversations because conflict once meant losing connection. Perhaps you stay endlessly busy because silence brings you face to face with emotions you have postponed. Perhaps you struggle to ask for help because independence became part of your identity. Perhaps you over-explain because being misunderstood once had painful consequences. How much energy have you spent fighting these patterns? How often have you promised yourself that they would never appear again? How quickly do you criticize yourself when they return? And how much of your life has been organized around preventing anyone from seeing them? Taoist thought invites us to consider another possibility. What we call a weakness may not be an enemy. It may be an old strategy. It may be a protective response that once made sense. It may be a part of us that has continued performing a job long after the original danger has passed. Your habit of scanning other people's reactions may have begun as a way of staying emotionally safe. Your reluctance to depend on anyone may have formed when support was unreliable. Your perfectionism may have developed because praise only arrived when your performance was exceptional. Your constant preparation may have protected you from being caught unready. Your difficulty saying no may have grown from a fear that love must be earned through usefulness. These patterns may now create suffering. They may need to change, but they will not change simply because you insult them more effectively. Imagine standing beside a river. When the water is constantly stirred, it becomes cloudy. You cannot see what lies beneath the surface. The instinctive response may be to reach into the water and try to remove every particle of dirt. But the more urgently you move your hands, the cloudier the water becomes. Sometimes clarity does not come from doing more. It comes from no longer disturbing what needs time to settle. This is not passivity. It is not avoidance. It is the intelligence to recognize when force is creating the very confusion you are trying to solve. The same is true of the inner world. When a familiar fear appears, you may immediately begin arguing with it. You tell yourself that the fear is irrational. You remind yourself of everything you have accomplished. You search for reassurance. You imagine worst-case scenarios and prepare answers to each one. Soon, the original feeling has been covered by layers of reaction. Fear about the fear, shame about needing reassurance, frustration that the pattern has returned, embarrassment that you are not already beyond it. The water is now so disturbed that you can no longer see what the feeling was trying to communicate. What if, for one moment, you stopped stirring? Think of someone you care about deeply. Imagine that this person came to you after making a mistake. Perhaps they had missed a deadline, avoided an important conversation, or become overwhelmed in a situation that seemed easy for everyone else. Would you tell them that they were defective? Would you hand them a list of everything they should have done differently? Would you compare them with someone who appeared to handle life more gracefully? Or would you first try to understand what happened? Would you ask whether they were tired, whether they were afraid, whether they had been carrying more than anyone could see? Would you remind them that one difficult response does not define their entire character? Most of us understand compassion when another person is suffering. But when the suffering belongs to us, compassion suddenly seems irresponsible. We worry that kindness will make us lazy. We believe that criticism will keep us accountable. We imagine that if we stop attacking ourselves, we will stop growing. Yet consider how the harsh voice inside you actually affects your life. Does it make you more courageous, or does it make you more afraid of beginning? Does it help you learn from mistakes, or does it make you hide them? Does it strengthen discipline, or does it create cycles of pressure, exhaustion, avoidance, and guilt? Harshness often disguises itself as wisdom, but cruelty is not clarity. Force is not always strength. Fighting yourself is not the same as developing yourself. When you stop judging a pattern, you create enough space to observe it. When you stop demanding that it disappear immediately, you can begin to understand what activates it. When you stop treating yourself as a failed project, you can respond to your life as it actually is. This does not mean accepting every habit forever. It does not mean refusing responsibility. It does not mean using the past as an excuse to harm yourself or others. Acceptance is not the end of change. It is the beginning of honest change. A gardener does not help a plant by shouting at it for growing slowly. The gardener studies the conditions. Is there enough light? Too much water? Not enough space for the roots? The plant is not accused of moral failure. Its needs are understood. You can learn to approach your inner life in the same way. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" ask, "What conditions are creating this response?" Instead of saying, "I should not feel this way," ask, "What does this feeling believe it is protecting?" Instead of demanding immediate transformation, ask, "What would make a wiser response possible?" These questions do not remove responsibility. They make responsibility more intelligent. The next time you notice one of your familiar patterns, experiment with a different response. Suppose you are about to open your phone again, although you checked it only a minute ago. Rather than immediately accusing yourself of having no self-control, pause. Take one unforced breath, then ask, "What am I hoping to find?" Perhaps you are waiting for a reply because uncertainty feels unbearable. Perhaps you want distraction from a difficult task. Perhaps you are searching for a small sign that you have not been forgotten. Or imagine that you are rewriting a simple message for the 5th time. Instead of calling yourself ridiculous, pause and ask, "What am I afraid this person will misunderstand?" Perhaps the problem is not the sentence. Perhaps you are afraid that a small misunderstanding will threaten the relationship. Or imagine that someone asks you for help and you feel yourself preparing to say yes, even though your body is already tired. Pause and ask, "What do I believe will happen if I say no?" The answer may not be logical. It may be old. It may be connected to a time when usefulness brought safety, belonging, or praise. You do not have to obey the answer, but you can listen to it. Recognition gives you a choice that criticism does not. Now, let us go deeper. Behind many difficult patterns is a protective intention. The method may be outdated, but the intention is often understandable. Over-preparing may be trying to protect you from humiliation. Avoiding conflict may be trying to protect you from abandonment. Constant productivity may be trying to protect you from feeling unworthy. Seeking reassurance may be trying to protect you from uncertainty. Keeping emotional distance may be trying to protect you from disappointment. The pattern is not always wise, but it is rarely meaningless. At some point, it learned that this behavior reduced pain, and because the mind values survival more than elegance, it continued using the strategy. You can acknowledge this without surrendering control to it. You might quietly say, "I see what you are trying to do. You are trying to keep me from being rejected. You are trying to prevent another mistake. You are trying to make sure I remain useful. Thank you for protecting me when I did not know another way. But we have more choices now." This is not merely positive thinking. It is a change in relationship. The pattern is no longer a monster hiding in the dark. It becomes information, and information can be examined, updated, responded to. Here is a practice you can use in daily life. It is inspired by the Taoist principle of observing without immediately interfering. Find a quiet moment. Sit in a way that allows your body to soften. You do not need to create a perfect meditation environment. A chair beside your desk is enough. The edge of your bed is enough. Even a quiet moment inside a parked car can be enough. Take 3 slow breaths. Do not use the breaths to force yourself to calm down. Simply notice that breathing is already happening. Now bring to mind one pattern you have been fighting. Perhaps it is procrastination. Perhaps it is the need to check everything repeatedly. Perhaps it is the fear of disappointing others. Perhaps it is the habit of comparing your progress with people online. Do not solve it yet. Do not build a strategy. Let the pattern be present as an experience. Where do you feel it in your body? Is there pressure in the chest, tightness in the throat, restlessness in the hands, a heaviness behind the eyes? Notice the sensations without turning them into a problem. Then ask 3 questions. What am I trying not to feel? What am I afraid would happen if I stopped using this pattern? What is one small and safe response available to me now? Do not demand a dramatic answer. A small answer is enough. Perhaps the next step is waiting 10 minutes before checking the message again. Perhaps it is sending the imperfect draft to one trusted person. Perhaps it is declining one request without writing a paragraph of explanation. Perhaps it is taking a genuine break before deciding whether you have lost motivation. Perhaps it is admitting, I need help with this. This is how gentle change begins, not through a declaration that you will become a different person tomorrow, through one honest response in the present moment. As your relationship with these patterns changes, you may begin to notice that some of your supposed weaknesses contain capacities that were never properly guided. Your sensitivity may become the ability to notice what others overlook. Your need to prepare may become thoughtful planning when it is no longer ruled by fear. Your awareness of other people's emotions may become empathy when it is balanced by boundaries. Your intensity may become devotion. Your cautiousness may become discernment. Your desire to do things well may become craftsmanship when perfection is no longer required. The goal is not to erase your nature. It is to free your qualities from the fear that has been directing them. Water does not become stone in order to possess strength. It becomes fully water. It flows. It adapts. It rests when held. It moves when a path opens. It changes form without abandoning its nature. Real transformation often looks like this. The quality remains, but its expression changes. The energy that once produced anxiety becomes attention. The energy that once produced people-pleasing becomes care with boundaries. The energy that once produced perfectionism becomes devotion to meaningful work. The energy that once produced endless control becomes wise preparation, followed by release. We began with a man running from his shadow. He believed that freedom meant putting enough distance between himself and everything he disliked. But every step of escape created another footprint. Many of us have spent years doing the same. We have tried to outwork our insecurity, outperform our need for approval, outplan uncertainty, outgrow our sensitivity, outrun the fear that we are somehow not enough. But perhaps healing does not begin with running faster. Perhaps it begins when we become still enough to see what has been running with us. You are not required to admire every part of yourself. You do not need to pretend that every habit is healthy. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to create boundaries. You are allowed to develop discipline. You are allowed to leave behind behaviors that no longer serve your life. But change does not require hatred. You do not have to humiliate yourself into becoming wiser. You do not have to exhaust yourself into becoming whole. Wholeness is not the absence of contradiction. It is the ability to hold your strength in your fear, your clarity in your confusion, your progress in your unfinished places within the same compassionate awareness. So today, consider laying down one weapon in the war against yourself. Not every weapon, just one. Notice one moment when you would normally attack yourself and choose curiosity instead. When you hesitate, ask what the hesitation is protecting. When you over-prepare, ask what mistake feels too dangerous to risk. When you say yes while wanting to say no, ask what relationship you fear losing. When you compare yourself with someone online, ask what part of your own path suddenly feels uncertain. Meet the answer without ridicule. You may discover that the part of you causing difficulty is not trying to ruin your life. It is trying, in an outdated and imperfect way, to protect it. You can appreciate that intention without continuing the behavior. You can say, "I understand why you are here, and today we are going to choose differently." You are not a machine with a defective component. You are a living being shaped by experience, adapting as best you could with the understanding you had. The path forward is not to become someone who never struggles. It is to become someone who can meet struggle without immediately turning against themselves. Until next time, move gently, be patient with what is still learning, and remember, like water, your softness is not the opposite of strength. It may be the form of strength that finally allows you to change.